Welcome to the Neuro Rewire Program. This is not just another self-improvement method, not another motivational speech, not another short-term fix that makes you feel good for 3 days and then disappears. This is a system designed to fundamentally change how your brain operates, how you think, how you react, how you interpret what happens to you, how you experience your life every single day. Because if your internal patterns stay the same, your results will keep repeating themselves, no matter how badly you want change. And today, we begin with step 1. The step most people underestimate. The step that looks almost too simple to matter, but in reality, it changes everything. This step looks simple, but it is not easy. Because step 1 is not about feeling better. It is not about positive thinking. It is not about convincing yourself that everything is fine. It is about seeing what is actually happening inside your mind without escaping it. And the truth is, you probably won't like what you discover. You will see patterns you ignored. You will hear thoughts you normalized. You will notice just how often your mind works against you. And that discomfort, that's exactly why this works. Most people believe they understand their thoughts. They say things like, "I know myself. I know how I think. I know what my problem is." And they believe that because they are familiar with their emotions. But familiarity is not the same as awareness. But the truth is, you don't. Not fully. Not precisely. Not in the level of detail required to change your programming. Because if you truly saw your patterns clearly, they would not control you as much as they do. Most thoughts are automatic, fast, repetitive, invisible. They happen so quickly and so often that you stop noticing them. A negative thought appears. It creates a feeling. That feeling influences your behavior. That behavior reinforces your identity. And then the cycle repeats, again and again and again. Not because you chose it consciously, but because your brain learned it through repetition. And that leads to one of the most important truths in this entire program. What you do not track controls you. What you do not see runs in the background. What runs in the background shapes your reactions. And what shapes your reactions shapes your life. So if your mind is constantly producing stress, criticism, fear, doubt, irritation, insecurity, comparison, resentment, and you are not observing it, then you are being programmed by it. Not occasionally, daily. So what exactly is step 1? Simple. For 7 days, you write down every negative thought. Not the filtered version, not the polite version, not the version that sounds acceptable. The real one. Not some of them, not just the dramatic ones. Not only the thoughts that feel important. Not only the thoughts you remember later. All of them. For 7 full days. The small ones, the petty ones, the repetitive ones, the embarrassing ones. The ones you normally dismiss because they seem too stupid, too minor, too fast, or too familiar. Because what matters is not only the intensity of a thought, it is the frequency. Every single one. For 7 days straight. Because the thoughts you ignore the fastest are often the ones that have trained you the longest. Why? Because repetition becomes programming. A thought repeated once means very little. A thought repeated 10 times starts creating familiarity. A thought repeated hundreds of times becomes a lens. And a thought repeated for years becomes identity. That's when people start saying things like, This is just how I am. This is just my personality. This is just how my life works. But often, it is not personality. It is repetition. And repetition becomes belief. Belief becomes behavior. Behavior becomes life. So during these 7 days, when you write things down, you are not doing busy work. You are exposing the code. And this is why there are no shortcuts. For these 7 days, no summarizing. No, I was negative today. No general statements like, I had a bad mood. That tells you nothing. You need the exact thoughts, the exact wording, the exact pattern. Because vague awareness creates vague change. Precise awareness creates precise rewiring. You do not need anything complicated for this step. A notebook, a pen, and brutal honesty. That's enough. Not talent, not a perfect mindset, not motivation, not a special app. Just a place to record and the willingness to stop lying to yourself. As the thoughts happen, capture them, as close to real time as possible. If you can write immediately, write immediately, because awareness requires evidence. You need enough raw material to see the repetition, enough examples to identify emotional themes, enough written proof that you stop being able to deny what is happening internally. That is when observation becomes real. Not when you have 1 or 2 examples, but when the pattern becomes undeniable. So what does this actually look like in real life? It looks ordinary. That's the point. These are not dramatic movie thoughts. These are the quiet mental habits that shape your state all day long. And once you start observing them, you realize how constant they really are. Notice something important here. None of these thoughts may seem life-changing on their own. That's exactly why they're dangerous. Because one negative thought feels harmless. But when dozens of them repeat all day, every day, they create an emotional climate. And you do not act based only on logic. You act based on your emotional climate. If your internal climate is criticism, pressure, insecurity, irritation, doubt, and defeat, your behavior will reflect that. You will delay more, avoid more, eat differently, speak differently, train differently, work differently, show up differently. That is why step 1 matters. You are not just writing thoughts. You are mapping the atmosphere you live inside. And then there are the deeper thoughts, the ones that don't just comment on your day, they define your sense of self. I'm not good enough. I always ruin things. I'm too much. I'm not enough. I don't deserve better. Something is wrong with me. These are not small thoughts. These are identity-level instructions. And if they've been repeating inside you for years, they are not just affecting your mood, they are shaping your life. This is why step 1 can be uncomfortable. Because for the first time, you are no longer escaping the noise in your mind. You are documenting it. You are forcing the invisible to become visible. And once something becomes visible, you can no longer pretend it isn't there. If you do this properly, you will have a realization that may shock you. I think negatively all the time. Not sometimes. Not only when life goes wrong. Not only when I'm emotional. All the time. And that realization can hit hard. You may feel disappointed, embarrassed, overwhelmed, even discouraged. You may think, is my mind really this negative? Have I really been talking to myself like this for years? Is this what has been shaping my behavior the whole time? And the answer may be yes. But this moment is not a problem. This moment is progress. Because denial keeps patterns alive. Observation begins to weaken them. This is not failure. This is awareness. And awareness is the first moment you stop being blindly programmed and start becoming conscious. Now, here is something very important. Your job in step 1 is not to stop the thoughts. Do not fight them. Do not fix them. Do not replace them yet. Do not judge yourself for having them. Your only job is to observe and record. That's it. You are becoming a witness, a tracker, a scientist of your own mind. No editing, no excuses, no spiritual bypassing, no pretending. Just clean observation. Because when you observe enough, patterns appear. You start seeing the same words, the same emotional tone, the same triggers, the same assumptions, the same identity wounds. And once the pattern becomes visible, step 2 becomes possible. So let's recap the mission. For this step, you are going to track every negative thought you notice for the next 7 days. Not just the big ones, not just the emotional ones, all of them. You are going to write them exactly as they appear. You are going to collect enough evidence to reveal the pattern. And you are going to stop underestimating the power of what repeats inside your mind. Because what you don't track controls you. And what you finally track, you can eventually change. But first, you must see it. In step 2, we begin changing it. We take the patterns you observed and we start interrupting them deliberately. So if you're serious about rewiring your mind, don't skip this step. Do the work. Observe honestly. Track everything. And I'll see you in step 2.